One mic.
All I need is one mic.
What's the name of the show?
One mic with Big Mike.
You know, ain't nobody getting hurt, ain't nobody, there's no crime being committed.
And they say his style is too urban for the radio.
This is real life stuff that's happened to me.
Well, you know what?
You, and you.
One mic with Big Mike.
I like to be able to do what I want to do.
A sports talk show, but no subject matter is off limits.
Meek Mill's concert is not called the Hell Yeah I Bang Khloe Kardashian concert.
And now, your host.
Put your hands together for the one, the only
Big Mike.
All I need is one mic.
Welcome into the Friday edition of One Mic with Big Mike. Of course, I am your host, Big Mike. Find me on Twitter and Instagram at the number one, MICWITHBIGMIKE. You guys can also use that same handle to follow my show on Spreaker, which is where you're hearing me right now, Spreaker.com, or they do have an app for all of your mobile devices. Just search for my show, the number one, MICWITHBIGMIKE. Once you do that, sign up for your free Spreaker account. And every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 o'clock, join me in the chat room where you guys can exchange your thoughts with me. I can tell you guys what I think about your thoughts. You can tell you what you think about me. Sorry. That's later. Yeah, we'll get into that later. But you guys can tell me what you think about me. I can comment on your thoughts and so forth and so on. Also, you guys make sure you follow me on Facebook, facebook.com/ONEMICWITHBIGMIKE. I guess I should say like my page on Facebook, not necessarily follow me. Also, once the shows are done, each and every one of them, they get saved live either on SoundCloud, which I have to continuously empty out and refresh, but on Spreaker and on YouTube, they actually save every episode of the show. So if you don't catch them live, or if you want to share it with a friend or something like that, just tell your friends about them. They can go to Spreaker, SPREAKER.com. And like I say, sign up for a free account. And even if you don't, you can still catch the show on podcast as well as on YouTube.com. What else do I need to tell you guys? I need to tell you guys about the hat giveaway, right? I figured out how I want to do this. I'm going to make it very, very easy to win yourself a brand new New Era or Mitchell & Ness hat. And what I'll do, I'll post pictures of the hats. You can choose whichever one you want. I got a couple of them. I got a few in today. Some pretty cool ones, actually, as a matter of fact. I'm going to keep one of them. But Atlanta Hawks, Atlanta Braves. I got an LA Dodgers joint. I can't remember what the other ones are, but they're all brand new. None of the hats that you see me wearing or you've seen me wearing if you checked out my YouTube stream, which I haven't done in a couple days. I'm going to take a break from the YouTube stream for a minute so I can get myself better acclimated to the things that I'm doing, and so that I don't mess up as much. That's a little bit too much for me to handle all by myself right now. But yeah, the way you're gonna win the hat is just guess between now and the end of the week. Guess this year's Super Bowl champion, and what'll happen is for those you say like 5 or 10 people guess the I don't know, the Seahawks, right? Well, what I'll do then, I'll put those 10 people in a hat, and I'll just draw a name, and that person will win the hat. Very, very simply. And this will be done via Instagram, via Twitter, via Facebook, and I'll post it all on all 3 social website engines, so to make sure everyone has a chance to see what's going on. I'll retweet them from other accounts. You guys do the same, retweet them from other accounts. And we'll try to keep this thing popping. As well, make sure you join me inside the chat room as well, so I can shout you out for your guess. If I think your guess is ignorant or stupid or whatever, I'll do that. Which I don't know. I'm not really a big guy that's on that anyway. Like, because there's no way of knowing. Like, people, you'll feel like you have an inside track or some sort of knowledgeable edge over the next man. But in reality, it all comes down to, there's so many factors involved. No one knows, right? As far as today's show go, as we always do in the second half hour of the show, no guest tonight. So we will we'll take our daily look back in the history of sports and tell you guys about a few particular incidents or particular things that happened on this particular day in history, and we call it On This Day. We'll also talk about the NFL Hall of Fame releasing a list of their finalists. tell you what, I'm gonna give you the list, but there's two people in particular I wanna highlight, and that would be Marvin Harrison and Terrell Owens. This is Terrell Owens' first time on the ballot. I think this is Marvin Harris's second time on the ballot. And I heard Tony Dungy talking about this guy Marvin Harrison this morning. He made a comment that he'd be disappointed if Terrell Owens got in first ballot or even got in before. No, I think he said if he gets in first ballot and Marvin Harrison didn't. So I want to talk about that a little bit as we move on. I want to talk about a show that I saw on Wednesday. I told you guys about American Crime. If you haven't checked it out on ABC, it's a wonderful, wonderful show, and I still can't remember this guy's name. But you all know him. He's the guy who wrote the Solomon Northup story, made into a movie called On This Day. The guy who directed it, his name is Steve McQueen, but I can't ever remember the guy who wrote the story, who wrote the screenplay. But he's been commissioned by ABC to do a I don't know what at first I thought it was just a mini series, but it seems as though they're bringing it back every year. American Crime, and this season is about a high school boy who went to a party. He was presumably, he thinks he was drugged, and his mom believes he was raped. And there's a real life story going on about that right now. Just I guess, ironically, weirdly, and very strangely, ironically. But I'm going to talk about both things. There's an update. I told you guys about that story about the high school in Tennessee a couple of days ago. But I'm going to update that story. There has been an update on that today. I want to talk to you guys about Adrian Peterson, everyone's favorite running back idiot. And if you don't think he's an idiot, maybe by the time I get through telling you about the latest on him, you will. I'm going to talk a little bit about these NFL job openings as well. And it ties into what my lead topic is today. Something that always bothers me, man. Like when people, especially people of color, like black people, let me say it that way. When black people they go out of their way to find racism in everything and put it in places that don't belong. And sometimes there's people who have the ability to affect other people's thinking, to herd the sheep, as I call it, being very, very irresponsible in that manner. So I want to talk about that a little bit once and tie it into the NFL coaching searches that are going on. As well, we got to talk about the playoffs. The NFL playoffs start this weekend. And I want to talk about the college football championships as well. Not necessarily the game, but a lot of stuff that surrounds the game that we kind of ignore because of all the pageantry and ESPN really, driving it home that this is the biggest thing since sliced bread. Well, there's some other things that we gotta look past the veil and find out about. You understand what I'm saying? So that's it. Now, like I told you guys yesterday, I'm not gonna push 2 hours on you guys. Like the show has a cap of 2 hours on it, but if I'm done talking about what I'm talking about, and then an hour and a half or an hour and 15 minutes goes by, yeah, we're gonna close up shop and everybody go home. Especially it's Friday. I know it's date night, and if you're taking the time out, to holler at me and see what's what, I appreciate it. I definitely do. This is once again One Mic with Big Mike. I am Big Mike. Make sure you guys holler at me. I'm on Spreaker.com, broadcasting every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 7 to 9-ish. You know what I mean? Sometimes it'll be shorter. Sometimes it'll be a little bit longer. But that's where I'm at. So tell your friends about it, Spreaker.com. And there's an app for all of your mobile devices, no matter what platform that you're on. You guys just sign up for your free Spreaker account. It's free, just like Twitter and Instagram and all those things that you guys have. And then once you do that, search for my show, the number one, MICWITHBIGMIKE. And after you do that, you can join the show via the live interactive chat room, via the Spreaker app or the Spreaker website. And you guys can share your thoughts with me. You can share your thoughts with each other. I do look at them while I'm reading and talking and everything else that I'm doing. I mean, I'm Facebooking right now as I'm speaking. You know what I mean? So I'm able to do a lot of things at once. Also, I'm on Twitter and Instagram at the number one, MICWITHBIGMIKE, One Mic with Big Mike. And on Facebook.com, make sure you like my page, ONEMICWITHBIGMIKE. Now, I kind of let the cat out the bag a little bit, right? But this guy seems to be ESPN's new favorite black puppet. If something needs to be, or if black people need riling up by something going on in the sports world, Stephen A. Smith seems to be the guy of late here who has been charged with that job. You know, he does the show on, I guess it comes on every morning. I don't watch it. First Take with Skip Bayless. And that nice Middle Eastern looking lady, Molly, I think her name is. She was on ESPN, on NFL Network for a while. And, you know, I think it's one of those things that, you know, it's a show that I feel like has an agenda to just dumb down things into this whole, you take this angle, I'll take this angle, and we'll make it sound like we really disagree. I think it's stupid. I think it makes sports fans stupid. And I've always contended, well, not always, but my contention is if anyone ever starts a debate with me on any sports topic, and part of your support is, well, Stephen A. Smith said this morning, conversation's over. I'm good. Like, if that's where your thoughts are coming from, I'd rather do without them. So anyway, a couple days ago, Stephen A. Smith was talking about, once again, for the second time in about a month, as a matter of fact, because he did it when Mark Richt got hired at Miami. He raised his voice and yelled. And here's the other thing. Let me tell you something. Just because someone's yelling something, it don't make it right. It don't make it righteous. It don't make it the gospel. It just makes them loud and stupid rather than being, you know, speaking with a normal tone and being stupid. So he's talking about Mark Richt getting the job at the University of Miami as though there is no reason for him to get a job. You know, he talks about Mark Richt as though he's a bum and all these kind of things. And I know it's a bunch of black coaches that were qualified for that job. And then turns around and says, I don't know who. Well, then shut up. Because now you're arguing against your own point at that point. Now, what I did, I went and found a list of guys who may be qualified for head coaching jobs. Guys who I didn't know who they were. You know what I mean? But, you know, I went and I found them. I feel like the same thing, a guy with a bunch of producers around him could have easily said, look, can somebody give me a list of coordinators and position coaches, African-American, that are in college football? I'm sure he could have done that because I did it. And, you know, I did it through Google. I didn't do it through 5 or 6 producers. He did it. He went on that rant about, what was the other one he did? Oh, about Luke Walton and Steve Kerr and Mark Jackson, how Mark Jackson deserved all the credit for what's going on with the Golden State Warriors right now. And it's like, I can't understand how that garbage resonates to people. So then, a couple days ago, Jason Garrett, I guess, was retained as the Dallas Cowboys head coach. And Stephen A. Smith says that Jason Garrett is the quote-unquote walking epitome of the unfairness felt by quote-unquote black folks because he was not fired. Here's the other thing about that. I don't really need, and I hope you guys don't either, I don't need Stephen A. Smith speaking for me. Like, that don't need to be a thing. You know, as a black person, black man, that's the way I'm categorized in this country. But I would love to feel like I'm more complex than just that, than just my gender and my race. And so the feeling that Stephen A. Smith, the thought that Stephen A. Smith feels so empowered that he can speak for me, yeah, that kind of rubs me the wrong way. Nah, I don't care, my man. Like, the fact of the matter, the NFL in and of itself is a little different of a beast because it's one of those places where there's only 32 jobs to be had as a head coach, as a head football coach or a GM. There's only 32 jobs. So that makes it kind of a It's not like being a cashier at Walmart. Because Walmart's everywhere, and I don't know how many different places and jobs they may have. And the road to those jobs, when they're so limited, it's like an industry that I worked in for a long time, radio. A lot of times, the road to a radio job, to an on-air position, is about your relationship with the person doing the hiring. There used to be a saying all the time that there are no real job openings in radio. Like, they'll post a job opening, but the guy who's hiring knows who he wants to hire already. He already has an idea and has for a while before he even had that position. So Stephen A. Smith goes on to say this, and he says, you know any black folks in professional sports that have it like that? And what he's speaking of is a guy who can be very inadequate. I think Jason Garrett is very inadequate at his job. Even before he got the job, I was like, God, this dude is a clown. And even I've spoken openly about how I feel about the way he got the job, the whole coaching waiting thing, and then how I feel like he sabotaged Wade Phillips. But, that's another story for another time. Then when all his play calling duties and all that stuff were stripped away from him, and then he became this great coach, that was odd. You hired him because he's this offensive mind, like the guy in Green Bay, like Green Bay's head coach, or like Bruce Arians down in Phoenix. He was none of those things, apparently, because the team got better once the play calling duties were stripped from him. And one of the reasons those play calling duties were stripped from him is because he has some of the poorest game management skills I've ever seen on the sideline. Like, he does all that rah, yeah. He wins no challenges. He challenges the dumbest things. That's one. And two, all that cheerleader stuff. Come on, man. They got enough people in the stands. It's 100,000 people can fit in that stadium. They got cheerleaders on the sideline. They don't need you. They need you understanding when it's time to go for it on fourth down, and calling and having the play called accordingly on third down, because it's going to be a 2-down situation. Like, he get away with a lot of, like, even in that NFC Championship game or that NFC playoff game last year against the Dez Bryant non-catch. Like, people don't understand. They were in field goal range. He could have kicked the field goal. That gets overshadowed because of the fact that the controversy arose out of the non-catch thing with Dez Bryant. Okay. So Stephen A. Smith goes on to say, my question to white America, this is a quote, my question to white America is, why don't you get upset? That's my question. Because there's a whole bunch of white folks out there that don't have Garrett's job security. Why is this happening? There's a whole bunch of white assistants in the NFL that ain't getting shots because Jason Garrett is his boy. Speaking of Jerry Jones. There's a whole bunch of white coordinates that ain't getting looks, that ain't getting shots because Jason Garrett is his boy. Says it again. I mean, this is unbelievable, end quote. He goes on to say, quote, if it's bad for you as white folks, could you imagine how bad it is for black folks, end quote? Well, here's the thing. What white person you hear complaining? Because even as a white assistant, even as an assistant of any color, you're getting compensated very, very handsomely for doing your job. And if you do that job, you understand that it's not a normal pecking order type of thing. It's not. These things they're above a lot of people on the outside's understanding. Apparently, Stephen A. Smith doesn't feel like he's one of those people. He negates to reveal the fact that Jason Garrett just came off the first year of a 5-year, $30 million deal. So to fire him would mean to pay him for 4 more years, sign a brand new coach for 4 years, probably. I mean, that's the going length, more than likely 3 or 4 years, and then be paying 2 coaches, one of which doesn't work for you any longer, for the next 3 to 4 years. What kind of dumbass sense does that make? And God forbid the next dude don't work out, you'll be the Cleveland Browns. They paying 3 dudes right now. One of which, Rob Chudzinski in English, got fired after 1 year. Mike Pettin got fired after 2 years. Chazinski is now been hired as the full-time coordinator for the Indianapolis Colts. I sound like Dominique Wilkins. He always called Oklahoma City Thunder Oklahoma. Just that's it. No, the Indianapolis Colts, which position was vacated by Pep Hamilton, a brother, a black dude. My point in all this is, or what I'm leading to, is the day after he makes these statements, in a very surprise, like Wednesday, as soon as I turn my mic off, I see that Lovie Smith gets fired, and then it happens. All the bros got to get mad. Oh, they full of crap. That's so damn stupid. Really? Is it? Is it stupid just because he's black? Like, he's the same color as me, so something must be wrong with what's going on here. Nah, you got to look deeper. I think you always, take your emotion out of it and understand what's going on. Like, the one thing that you're 99% guaranteed as a professional head coach is that one day you will be fired. Now, that don't happen to everybody. Some people get to move on. Like, they try to pull that stuff with Tom Coughlin. Like, Tom Coughlin, he's decided to move on. But I'm not done coaching. Well, yeah, had they allowed you to stay, you would have stayed home, boy. You got your man Eli in the crowd crying and all that. Yeah, had you been allowed to stay, you would have stayed. But to save face, it looks better to say you resigned. All right? So the Lovie Smith stuff happens. And there's going to be that initial emotional response. But then 12 hours later, whenever that show comes on, Stephen A. Smith starts to talk. Right? And I got a couple of clips of the things he had to say. And here's one of them.
Either you got to have a brother, giving a brother the opportunity to run his own show, or you have to be an elite Hall of Fame coach, secured in your stature in order to hire an African-American to lead.
Now, I'm going to say this about that. It doesn't have to be that way, because if it had to be that way, Marvin Lewis wouldn't have a job. Jim Caldwell wouldn't have a job. Mike Tomlin wouldn't have a job. Lovie Smith wouldn't have the job that he had. Todd Bowles wouldn't have his job. You understand what I'm saying? Because if it had to be a situation where some brother had to be in a position to hire another brother, it would never happen, because guess who doesn't own teams? We don't. Black people, we don't own football teams. Yet. I'm going to say yet. It's like Borg Dunn. I think he has a small percentage of the Falcons, and I think Curtis Martin has a certain percentage, a small percentage of the Jets. But as far as being a majority owner, the guy who runs the Arthur Blanks, the Bob Crafts, there are no black Arthur Blanks. There are no black Bob Crafts. So that premise is done with. Now, if you're talking about GMs, well, that's another story. But I don't think just because you're a black GM, you should be beholden to hiring a black coach. No. No way in hell. I don't think that's the case anyway. Now, I think maybe it's beholden upon you to look a little bit harder than your white counterpart may have looked. Okay, I can see that. Give him a more fair shot. But no. I shouldn't have to hang my family's livelihood on the fact that, we all brothers. Come on, man, that's ridiculous. That ain't how business is done. In business, the color that matters is green. And in football, results matter. Speaking of results, and I'll get back to Stephen A. Smith here in just a second. Speaking of results, let's talk about Lovie Smith's results. 8-24 was his record in 2 years with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, if I took the name away and I just said this coach was 8-24, he won 8 ball games in 2 years. And if you want to say, and I can hear you out there, I can hear you saying, but they went from 2 to 6 this year. All right, let's do this. Again, let's zoom out and look a little bit deeper. The Buccaneers in week 2, they beat the Saints. Anybody consider the Saints a good team? Anybody? Bueller? I didn't think so. Right? All right. They went on a 2-game losing streak to the Texans and the Panthers. By the way, they lost the first game 42-14. I think Marcus Mariota threw 5 freaking touchdown passes, which is going to illuminate a point I'm going to get to here in just a second. Then they beat the Jaguars. Goody. Beat the Jaguars by 7 in the shootout. Again, I'm going to give you the score. 31-38 against Blake Bortles and his boys. All right. Lost to the Redskins, playoff team. Beat the Falcons. No one in my city considers that a quality win. Lost to the Giants. Beat the Cowboys. Need I say more? And then beat them by 4 points with, like, I don't know who the hell was the quarterback. Was it Matt Castle at the time? Or was it Brandon Whedon? And found their way to beat them by 4 points. Got it, they pushed it in on the Eagles, but they're the Eagles, right? 45-17. Now you say the Eagles beat the Patriots. Well, it's the NFL. Yeah, they did, right? They lost to the Colts 25-12 without Andrew Luck. Beat the Falcons again. So that's two of their 6 wins came against that badass Falcons team, right? All right. Lost to the Saints. And I remember this game. They could have won. There's a couple of games here that they should have been in position to win. That's the stuff you put on the coaches. Like when you hear Stephen A. Smith say, yeah, they started off strong, but then they faded down the stretch. That's a coaching thing. That is a coaching thing. Because if you have the talent to perform and you don't, yeah, what are we talking about? All right. Where are we at? Okay, they lost to the Saints. So 3 of their 6 wins were against NFC South teams, the Falcons and the Saints. Lost to the Buccaneers. Lost to the Rams. Sorry. Where am I at? Oh, lost to the Bears by 6. Remember that one too. They could have won that one. It was 26-21. See, this is what you look for out of your head coach. And as we move here into the next segment of the show, I'll pick up and I'll tell you guys another reason why I don't feel bad about, I feel bad about anybody losing the gig, because it doesn't just affect him. It affects his family. It affects his coaches and their families as well. This is why you'll never hear me saying that dude needs to be fired. Nope, not me. Nah. You know what I mean? Unless, of course, there are exceptions to the rule. Like Jared from Subway should have been fired. You know what I mean? But not because of a win-loss type of situation. I don't get into that situation because I'm not perfect at my job. Very few of you listening to this are perfect at your jobs. So to expect that level from somebody else, I think you should probably reach that first. Just my thoughts. I said the Rams already, the Bears, and finally they took an L to the once beaten Carolina Panthers in week 17 of the season. And that, my friends, think about that. The Cowboys were a win. They didn't beat anybody. So to give him credit, to give Lovie Smith credit for 6 wins after a 2-win season, when you got 3 Pro Bowl type players on defense at every level, that Gerald McCoy, you've got Levante David, you even got the other kid that got suspended. His brother died, and he had that big game against the Falcons. You got the Werner kid in the back end. You got a nice defense for your defensive head coach to be so bad at stopping people from scoring points. Now, what we'll do, we'll come back in the second half hour of the show. I'm going to do On This Day, and then we'll get back into this conversation because there's another level of things going on that go on in situations like this that I want to get you guys to understand and not just listen to this dumbass Stephen A. Smith stuff. And I'll play another clip from him as well on the other side. This is One Mic with Big Mike, being heard on Spreaker.com and the Spreaker app for all of your mobile devices. I'm at the number 1 MIC, WITHBIGMIKE. Just use that. Search for it on Spreaker. Sign up for your free Spreaker account, and you guys can join the conversation as well via my live interactive chat room. You guys can also use that handle for Twitter and Instagram. And for Facebook, make sure you like my page. ONEMICWITHBIGMIKE. One Mike with Big Mike. And I'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Layla Ali. I might be undefeated in professional boxing, but there's one problem even I can't fight alone: childhood hunger. Over 17 million kids in America may not know where their next meal is coming from. That's 1 in 5 children. Yet billions of pounds of surplus food produced right here in America just get thrown out every year. That's more than enough to feed every last hungry child. That's why the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks gathers surplus food and gets it to hungry kids before it goes to waste. But they can't do it without your help. Join me in supporting Feeding America and your local food bank by going to feedingamerica.org. Together we can knock out hunger. Together, we're Feeding America.
To help solve hunger in your community and to find your local food bank, visit feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Attention men under the age of 35. You know what really impresses the ladies? When a guy has a few drinks and later gets pulled over for buzzed driving. That could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. There goes let's grab dinner and a movie. Oh, I know. You drive more carefully when you're buzzed. You've proven that hundreds of times. A woman admires that kind of confidence. And you've practiced how to speak if a cop does pull you over. Slowly, clearly, and politely like, "Good evening, officer." A woman admires that kind of foresight. And what woman doesn't find it adorable that you call it buzzed even though the law calls it drunk? You could kiss $10,000 goodbye, along with any chance of having a girlfriend. Because nothing says, "I'm a catch," more than a guy who lives in his parents' basement and calls it my place.
Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzzed driving is drunk driving. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to One Mike with Big Mike. Second half hour of the final show of the week. Appreciate everybody for joining me all week long, and everybody who's downloaded the podcast and streamed it and shared it with your friends. I greatly, greatly appreciate it. Make sure you guys sign up for your free Spreaker accounts once again, Spreaker.com or the Spreaker app. Search for my show, the number 1, MICWITHBIGMIKE. And every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 o'clock, you guys can join the chat room. Let me know what you guys are thinking about the content of the show. Give me content ideas if you like. You can have conversations amongst each other as well. And don't forget, I'll be giving away a brand new, either Mitchell & Ness or a New Era ball cap snapback, just for you guessing the winner of this year's Super Bowl. You got until next Friday at this time. I'm going to give you till next Saturday at game time to get your guess in via Twitter or Instagram. I'm at the number 1, MICWITHBIGMIKE, or via my Facebook page, ONEMICWITHBIGMIKE. Now, we've been talking about Stephen A. Smith and his love for he's like the racism detective. You know what I mean? He can find racism where no one else can. And because he has the platform, and because so many of you guys believe that the things he says are gospel or is gospel, he continues to blabber and participate in the buffoonery that is Stephen A. Smith and the ESPN puppetry that they have going on with him. I'm here to debunk half of the crap that not even half, more than half of the crap that he's been saying. And what he's been saying is that there's this problem, and there is, there's a problem with the hiring of black head coaches in the NFL, but you can't just reduce it to the fact that one guy kept his job and another guy lost his job. Those two guys they work for two different people, two different organizations with apparently two different standards. It is what it is. So before we get into all that, I promise you guys what we do every day around this time. We'll take our daily look back, and we call it On This Day.
Now, let's take a look back. On this day.
All right, quickly now. On this day in 1955, Furman sets an NCAA basketball single-game scoring record with 154 points. You know what I wonder? I wonder if that Loyola Marymount team, that Hank Gathers, Bo Kimball team, ever broke that record. Of course, I didn't take the time out to research these things. I just copied and pasted. On this day in 1955, the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, they end Kentucky's 130-game home basketball streak. I wasn't alive then. It's possible that none of you guys were either, but it happened. Trust me. It was on the internet, so it has to be true. On this day in 1957, the great Jackie Robinson announced his retirement from Major League Baseball in an article that appeared in Look magazine. Imagine that. Somebody announcing their retirement in an obscure way. On this day in 1972, the NCAA announces freshmen can, in fact, play on teams starting in the fall. As you guys remember, back in the day, guys like Lou Alcindor, now Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, couldn't play college basketball as freshmen. Some other guys like football, no one. They had varsity and junior varsity and that type of situation going on back then. Also in 1984, on this day in 1984, the NCAA announces that the basketball tournament will now have 64 teams. We do know now that it has increased to what now? What is it now? 68 teams? The first four? Yeah. On this day in 1984, ABC, they purchased the remaining 85% of ESPN. Yeah, that's not looking to be that great of an investment as things move forward. ESPN, it's been reported that they owe people like $20 million, man, for because they missed the mark ratings-wise for the college football playoffs. The ratings sucked, and the advertisers was like, no, that's not what you promised me. And it's like the total was like $20 million. Good for them. And I mean that in every way possible. On this day in 1993, the Chicago Bulls' Michael Jeffrey Jordan scores his 20th career point. I think last night, Kobe Bryant went over 23,000 points. Good for him. And Kobe's been playing a lot better, man. And I keep reminding myself, and I remind you guys, that Brian Windhorst made the point some weeks ago when Kobe was really playing like horribly, that when the season started, that was when Kobe first started shooting the basketball. Period. Shooting not at the home gym, not at the Lakers facility, not anywhere. He was just now shooting the basketball. So it took him a little while to get in rhythm, but Kobe seems to be playing a lot better. I don't know what the shooting percentage is looking like, but he just looks different. He caught an alley-oop yesterday, got a little bit more spring in his step. Maybe he hollered at Peyton Manning. Yeah, I did that. Yeah. On this day in 1996, for the first time in 25 years, no one was selected into the Baseball Hall of Fame. That's right in the thick of the steroid era, too, man. Yes, indeed. On this day in 2000, you guys remember the Music City Miracle, the Buffalo Bills versus the Tennessee Titans. Old Frank Wycheck and Kevin Dyson, Utah's finest, too, boy. Kevin Dyson. With 16 seconds left in the AFC wildcard playoff game, the Tennessee Titans' Lorenzo Neal handed the ball to Frank Wycheck, who then lateraled the ball across the width of the field to his teammate Kevin Dyson, who in turn ran the length of the field down the sideline for the game-winning touchdown to defeat the Buffalo Bills 22-16. I think that was the last time the Bills were in the playoffs, too, wasn't it? Ugh. But look, depending on who you're talking about, this probably should be edited, because if you're a Buffalo fan, you believe to your heart's content that that was not a lateral, it was a forward pass and should have been called back, but thus is life. Also, on this day in 2011, Marshawn Lynch's famous beast mode run happened. The run versus the New Orleans Saints in the wild card round of the NFL playoffs that shook the world almost. Yeah, it registered on the Richter scale. He was just like shoving dudes and running over dudes and went into the end zone holding his crotch. Oh, Marshawn, I'm glad he's back too. He's gonna be back for the playoff for the wild card round this week as well. So that's great for everything good about football. It was something else I wanted to mention about. Oh, the fact that that was the year that the Seattle Seahawks went into the playoffs 7-9 and still got a home playoff game. Playing in that NFC West. See, we forget about that. We forget that division was that bad at that time, and they were. Finally, on this day in 2012, the 3-16 game Oh, yeah. Tim Tebow's been all over our TVs all day today, hadn't he? Because the college football playoffs or championship game is happening on Monday. The Denver Broncos, Tim Tebow connected with Demaryius Bebe Thomas on an 80-yard touchdown pass on the first play from scrimmage in overtime, giving the underdog Broncos a 29-23 win over the Pittsburgh Steelers in the AFC wildcard playoff game. That's that game where everybody's like, Tim Tebow won a playoff game because, yeah, he threw a slant. Demaryius Thomas did nothing. Yeah, man, get your ass out of here, man. That's why his ass is back on the SEC network talking to Deshaun Watson and Derrick Henry. Yeah, that dude can't play no damn pro football, man. He belongs in college, man. The memory of Tim Tebow belongs in college. His greatness belongs in college football, man. And that is your Friday edition of On This Day. My man Alec Campbell was listening. He'd have a swallow counter on me, counting the times that don't even sound right because y'all don't know what that is. All right, moving on. All right, so back to Stephen A. Smith. Now, I played the clip about him talking about how it's going to take it takes for to be a black head man to hire black coaches and this kind of foolishness and all this rigmarole. Here's the long version of what he said after that. Now, bear with me. It's about a minute long, so bear with me and just check it out.
Every other African-American coordinator basically has a head coach on the same side of the ball, so you're essentially leading the way, even though that's the job of a head coach, to be fair. The reality is that it's given the impression and the interpretation that black men can't lead. And as a result, now we know why it's hard for black folks to get a head coaching job.
That's why.
It's unbelievable to me that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who should be ashamed of themselves for doing this, all right? It's amazing to me what is transpiring. It's not going to surprise me at all, Skip Bayless, if in a year or two we don't see an African-American head coach in the game.
Idiocy.
What we're seeing is us taking steps back, not steps forward. I'm sorry if folks believe that's race baiting. It just happens to be factual. But if that's where you want to take it, I don't give a damn.
How's it a fact when you start the statement with I believe? I believe in 2 years that there will not be a black head coach in professional football. And that's a fact. Yeah, you're an idiot. That's what you are. Like, for someone who like to throw those big words at you all the time, he don't come across to me as that bright. You know what I mean? Like, that's a contradiction amongst all contradictions. Yeah. See, what it is I believe, and what I believe is fact. Either you're an idiot or you're that much of a misogynist and you're that full of yourself to believe that the things that your opinions should be considered by everyone else as fact. Now, this whole idea about Lovie Smith being fired, that being why it's so hard on black coaches or black people, black men becoming head coaches. See, I'm the person that always talk. Like, people never want to look any deeper than the actual problem, right? We want to look at the disease, but not the cause. Now, what should happen, and I talked about this a few weeks ago, is there should be some sort of process on both the college and professional level, to be quite honest with you. Because here's the thing. Once you hire, because now they're talking about in Tampa bumping Dirk Cutter, the offensive coordinator, and I'll tell you guys why that makes sense here in just a second, up to the head coach. And now I heard the former Atlanta Falcons coach Mike Smith being mentioned as one of his coordinators, his D coordinator. You know why? Because he knows that dude. And there's nothing that says to him, there's no Rooney Rule saying that as a head coach, you need and have to at least interview this many African-American minority candidates before you make your hires for your assistants. That as well happens in the college ranks. And with a lack of assistants, the pool, the lack of minority assistants, it makes the pool a lot more shallow when it's time for guys to pick assistants and people they trust and people with the same vision as themselves. Kirby Smart just hired, I can't even think of his name, the DB coach for Alabama. Well, he'll be coming with Kirby Smart to the University of Georgia as the defensive coordinator. So that's a raise for him. That's another guy who now he now finds himself in the pipeline, so to speak. But it's not an overnight thing. You know, all that coaching tree stuff, it's cool because everybody need to help up. But once you get there, it's incumbent upon you. One, let me say this. Picking the right job is very, very overrated or underrated, I should say. Like, Lovie got into that whole thing about because he was there before, what it seems like. I don't know this for fact. I don't know Lovie Smith. I don't know anybody around him. But it seems like he got into the whole situation after taking a year off that people expected him to have that job because he was there before under Coach Tony Dungy, and it was like going home. They even said that. He's coming home and all this kind of stuff. But when you do that, where are you going? Are you going somewhere where the cupboard is bare? You know, where Josh McCown, or I guess, is your quarterback, and you try to bring the kid from it was Glennon, right? Mike Glennon, and then you brought McCown down from Chicago. And like Stephen A. Smith wants to say, everyone knows that first year was a wash. Really? Was it? Was it really? Because as I recall, Lovie Smith thought he had his man. He thought he had his quarterback because of what he did in Jay Cutler's absence in Chicago. Yeah, wrong. He was wrong. And they won 2 damn games and ended up with the first pick in the draft. So with that first pick in the draft, they ended up with Jameis Winston, right? Jameis Winston comes out. People don't really know how good he's going to be. I felt like the kid was going to be a good pro because everybody wondered about his off-the-field thing, how the off-the-field stuff was going to handle him. I felt like the kid I felt the same way I felt about him as I felt about Cam Newton. He's a football player. I felt like he's a damn good football player. And if under the right tutelage, he would be he'd become a hell of a pro. We're seeing it now with Cam Newton, but it took a while because, remember, the guy I mentioned in the first half hour of the show, Chazinski, was Cam's quarterback, was his offensive coordinator before he got the job in Cleveland, which he was fired from after a year. Same thing with Jameis Winston. I'm not a big fan. Like, if a young quarterback is to be just that under a defensive-minded head coach, I'm not really for that game unless there is a qualified. Chazinski is a Norv Turner disciple. You know what I mean? And we all know Norv Turner doesn't do the best with the head coaching hat on, but he gets it done for the most part when he has that offensive coordinator hat on in teaching and molding quarterbacks. That's his reputation. And you saw it with Cam Newton and Rob Chazinski. Now, here you have Dirk Cutter, a guy we know here, and Matt Ryan had his best years as a pro under Dirk Cutter. And then he was, went out with the Mike Smith situation and so forth and so on, right? Now, the emotional response to Lovie Smith being fired. Funny thing is, that same response wasn't brought about when Greg Schiano was fired. After 2 years, by the way, right? And you may say that, Lovie Smith has a little bit more cachet. Greg Schiano was a college coach coming to the pros. Lovie Smith been to a damn Super Bowl. Well, that's what he was. And obviously he didn't work out. Before him, there was Raheem Morris, fired after 3 years. You know what I mean? And for what it's worth, maybe Raheem just wasn't ready. He was young, man. I think that dude was like 30 years old. Like, it was players playing that were either his age or I think him and Rondé Barber. I think he was older than Raheem Morris playing down there in Tampa Bay. And I just don't think he was ready at the time. Like, once the newness and the energy wore off, then he had to coach. And it didn't happen for him. So he took a couple steps back. I think he became the DB coach for the Redskins. And we'll see him on the sideline this weekend. But I just don't think he was ready. Now, my point in saying those names, and make sure I brought up those names in order, before Stephen A. Smith accuses somebody of racism, and I don't know, the Glazers may be card-carrying members of the Klan. I don't know. But the evidence is this. They hired Tony Dungy, right? They hired Raheem Morris, right? They also hired Lovie Smith. Those 3 guys have something in common. Yeah, they're all 3 black men. You want to know how many other teams in the NFL have hired that many minorities or black coaches? 1. The Raiders. And they hired the first. And then it was Art Shell. And then it was Hugh Jackson, who's another name that's up for consideration right now. But they fired him after 1 year. After their old man died, Hugh got the boot after 1 year. Now, if you want to count Art Shell twice, go ahead. Art did that thing. He did that bid 2 times. They hired the very first coach. Let me scroll down here because there's a name. Fritz Pollard. And I learned about the Fritz Pollard Alliance today as well, too. They actually are the people who bring forth the names of who they feel are qualified minority coaches to help out with the Rooney Rule. So when you see people getting passed around so that people can fill their quotas, the David Shaws of the world and the Terrell Lawson, David Shaw, who by the way was like, hell no, I'm not interviewing for that 49ers job. That tells you all you need to know, don't it? Hugh Jackson, Jerome Henderson, these guys that are going to be passed around team to team this year. These names come about via the Fritz Pollard Alliance, and I just learned about it today. But Fritz Pollard was the first ever African American head coach in the ranks of professional football. This is One Mic with Big Mike. Big Mike here with you. Appreciate you guys joining me on a Friday evening on Spreaker.com, Spreaker.com, and the Spreaker app. For all of your mobile devices, make sure you find the show by searching the number 1 MIC, WITHBIGMIKE, One Mic with Big Mike. Also use that same handle for my Twitter and my Instagram. I'll be giving away a brand new era or Mitchell & Ness snapback hat of your choice. I mean, I'll give you the options, and you can choose which one you want. All you got to do is guess the winner of this year's Super Bowl. You got until next Saturday before the game via my Twitter or my Instagram or my Facebook page. One Mic with Big Mike, ONEMICWITHBIGMIKE is the Facebook, and just give me your guess of who you think is going to win. And then once you do that, if a couple of people guess the same team, Cardinals maybe, I'll put the names in the hat. I'll pull the name out, DM you to get your address, and I'll ship you out the hat. Yep. Just that simple. Just to show my appreciation for you taking time out of your day to either download the app or to listen via the app or download the show or stream the show and all those things. I just want to show my appreciation as we go forward here in 2016. Now back to this Stephen A. Smith foolishness, as I want to call it. So yeah, the Bucks, for what it's worth, yeah, they fired 3 black coaches, but to do that you had to hire 3 of them as well. Now let's talk about Lovie Smith for a while. Now everyone knows Lovie Smith as he's a defensive head coach, right? And I've already given my opinion on how I feel about. I always have pictures of Buddy Ryan and Randall Cunningham. How I don't ever feel like Randall Cunningham reached his full potential, just based on the fact that Buddy Ryan, like his words were basically, you go out there, and this is Randall Cunningham telling the story about, you go out there and make me 2 or 3 plays a game, and my defense will handle the rest. Yeah, that's how that went, and I think a lot of coaches have, even with Cam right now. I think Cam is he's just taking it upon himself to be that dude. But for the most part, Cam's just making plays, man. He's making plays a lot of the times on his own with guys like, Teddy Ginn and Jericho Cotchery and cats like that, man. Like, this ain't no, like, put it this way, if they were to lose in the first round, it wouldn't surprise me at all. It wouldn't at all. Now, I want to talk to you guys about Lovie Smith, this defensive coach that he is. How about this? Every year that he's been the head coach, the defense points per game given up has been worse than when Greg Schiano was there. So if you have a head coach and he hangs his hat on defense, and no matter how much he tries to disguise that Tampa 2 look that he loves so much, first of all, the coverage is antiquated. It is. The athletic tight end and the small, squirty slot receiver has kind of made the Tampa 2 obsolete. Me and one of my guys have had that conversation before, but it's true. The Tampa 2 was as successful as it was because you had a very athletic middle linebacker that could run down the middle with tight ends or with slot receivers. And that's where I think it became a problem when people found out you could put a slot receiver in the game, and cats would still try to run base, play it with their base offense, and all you got to do is throw the ball, split the safeties, and throw the ball right over the ear hole of the middle linebacker because he's not going to be able to keep up with your slot guy, especially if there's no jam at the line. If there's no jam at the line, you're done. So, to me, everything pointed to, especially if they wanted to keep, if they feel like Jameis Winston is comfortable with Dirk Cutter, and Dirk Cutter is good for Jameis Winston. The one thing I don't think you want to do if you're the Buccaneers is you don't want to start over with your rookie quarterback. You want to keep him on, especially in the second year, where we tend to see rookie quarterbacks kind of recede a little bit anyway. They kind of fall back a little bit from the success they had in their first year. You like to see he and Dirk Cutter continue to grow with their relationship. Now, the reason I bring up Dirk Cutter is because his name has been brought up in a lot of these head coaching openings across the league. Now, with that being said, I heard Mike Florio talking about today something unanticipated happened with the Buccaneers. Like once the job became opening, they started getting calls from everybody's agent wanting that job. So apparently, it's a very desirable job because, like I said, you got Werner, you got Gerald McCoy, you got Levante David, you got three on every level, just like in the good old days of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when you had you guys like John Lynch, you got guys like Derek Brooks, and you had guys like Warren Sapp. Every layer of the defense had a Pro Bowl type talent. Pair that with the fact that Doug Martin played his ass off this year, second leading rusher in the league. Jameis Winston looks to be the real deal. I don't know what Vincent Jackson's future is, but I do know Mike Evans is still there. Young, big, physical wide receiver. Maybe drops a couple balls that you would like him to catch, but whatever. So the job is attractive to people. And what it seems to look like is that the Buccaneers want to move in the direction of more of an offensive squad. Because the team that's at the top of their division, the Carolina Panthers, are what? A defensive squad. You got to get past them before you do anything in the league. Coming out of the NFC South. So I don't take this as a personal affront. You know what I mean? Like, oh my God, I can't believe they fired Lovey. Slow down. Do some reading. Do a little research. And just think about it for a minute. Are you really that surprised? Like, are you really, really that shocked that this dude got fired after beating no one? And the fact that this team had a chance to be a playoff team this year. They had a chance. Had a couple of bounces and went in a certain couple of ways, a couple plays, been called a little bit differently, a couple things been managed differently on the football field on Sunday. Maybe. But the six wins that they have, the Colts and the damn Jaguars and the Cowboys and the Falcons and the Saints, who the hell is throwing a party over that? Not me. So I do, I wish Lovey his best. And the thing that probably is the worst about the firing is that very rarely do minority African-American head coaches get that second shot. Denny Green got a second shot. Herm Edwards, he got traded actually from the Jets to Kansas City, or maybe vice versa. He got traded. Then there's Lovey got a second chance, and there's like Tony Dungy that got a second chance. The rest of these dudes, once they get fired, like Hugh Jackson sitting out there right now, people are talking about him, but we'll see. We'll see how it works. You know what I mean? But for the most part, you don't see a lot of retreads, with the dark skin. That's probably the shame of it all. It's not a shame that he got fired because that's part of the gig, and the fact that everything's speeding up right now. Results. The new CBA, the current CBA has sped everything up. You got a young quarterback, you can't sit him. All this foolishness people talk about you got to let him watch. You can't. You only got 3 years with him before you got to decide if you want to give him that 4th year option. Or is it 4 years and the 5th year option? Same deal. You got a limited amount of time with them. You got time to sit them down. You got to play them now. This is One Mic with Big Mike. We'll come back at the top of the hour. I want to talk about Adrian Peterson a little bit and get into the playoffs and what I think about the games coming up on Saturday and Sunday. We'll do that next right here on One Mic with Big Mike.
We asked kids what it took to be a dad. This is what they had to say.
A father is always present. I mean, what real father figure can you have if they're not there?
In order to be a good dad, you need to love your son. You need to put gas in your car so you don't break down in the middle of nowhere. And you need to make them breakfast. Yep.
I mean, just to maybe play like a board game with me, or to just stay home and play some video games with me. Just to do like that one little thing is what I really look forward to.
I'm not asking him to be a perfect dad, but he should try.
He's just a constant force in my life.
There's no other type of love like a dad's love because it's not comparable to anything else.
Take time to be a dad today. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
There's one thing you can never have sex without.
It's not something you buy.
Or something you take.
In fact, there's only one way to get it.
It has to be given to you, freely.
It's consent.
Because sex without it isn't sex.
It's rape. Consent.
If you don't get it, you don't get it. It's on us to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
One Mic.
All I need is one mic.
What's the name of the show?
One Mic with Big Mike.
Ain't nobody getting hurt, ain't nobody, there's no crime being committed.
And they say his style is too urban for the radio.
This is real life stuff that's happened to me.
Well, you know what?
You, and you.
One Mic with Big Mike.
I like to be able to do what I want to do.
A sports talk show, but no subject matter is off limits.
Meek Mill's concert is not called the Hell Yeah I Banged Khloe Kardashian concert.
And now, your host.
Put your hands together for the one, the only
Big Mike.
All I need is one mic. Right here on Spreaker.com and the Spreaker app for your mobile devices. Appreciate everybody for joining me this evening, whether you're in the chat room or you're not. I do advise that you get in the chat room. Let me know. Give me your thoughts on what we're talking about here tonight. Also, follow me on Twitter and Instagram. When I'm not here, I'm there at the number one MIC, WITHBIGMIKE. I'm also on Facebook. Like my page at One Mic, ONEMIC, WITHBIGMIKE. So we've been talking about Stephen A. Smith's opinion that Jason Garrett is the epitome of everything that's wrong and everything that bothers black people about what's going on with the hiring and firing of black coaches in the NFL. Right now, there were 6 as of yesterday. There are now 5 now. There's Todd Bowles. There's what's the guy's name? Jim Caldwell. There's Marvin Lewis. There is Mike Tomlin. Who am I missing? There was Lovie Smith. He's gone now. Maybe that's it. Maybe this is 4 now. It feels like I'm missing someone though. And I said Jim Caldwell already. So yeah, it's I don't believe that there'll be a time in 2 years where there'll be no black coaches. Because where's Mike Tomlin going? Todd Bowles seems to have his team on the right track right now. And I'm mentioning this in case you missed what Stephen A. Smith said. That's his opinion, or his fact, as he put it, that there will be no black coaches in the NFL in 2018, I guess. But here's the deal. The Rooney Rule wasn't designed for black coaches. It was designed for minority coaches. And I mentioned earlier, the Fritz Pollard Alliance. They've also, another name for you, Vikings defensive coordinator George Edwards. They've actually, I guess you could say, nominated him. I'm not sure if that's the proper term, but that's what they do. The organization actually works with the league on minority hirings. The Fritz Pollard Alliance chairman John Wooten said Thursday that Edwards has received strong recommendations from Vikings general manager Rick Spielman and coach Mike Zimmer. See, the problem with that is this. Now, they got a good defense in Minnesota, and we'll get to see them this weekend, and it's gonna be cold as hell. Like, man, I don't. Sometimes, like my homeboy used to coach in Saskatchewan in Canada, the Canadian Football League, and he told me how it gets so cold up there, and the fact that there's no trees, just flat land. So the wind, there's no buildings. The wind is just cutting through your ass like a knife, right? It gets so cold that people get frozen in their homes. Like the locks get frozen, so you can't get out the house. Yeah, well, he don't have that job no more, and he lives in Phoenix now. You know what I mean? He lives out in Arizona because his wifey, I guess they took a visit down there or whatever, and she's like, I'm not going back, so he had to buy a home down there. Good for him. Because that's too damn cold. They talking about it's going to be negative degrees in Minnesota and all this. Man, come on. No. But anyway, their defense. I had it here somewhere. Yeah, they ranked 5th in scoring defense and 13th in total defense. But here's the thing. The head coach, he calls the plays, right? And I always find that a danger when you got a head coach that calls, like Bruce Arians. Like he's an offensive genius, as they want to call him. So if you go after his assistants, like look what happens with Seattle. That Seattle defense just keeps on moving on. The Jacksonville defense hadn't got that much better with Gus Bradley. Dan Quinn's in his first year here, right? But we didn't really see that many improvements out of that squad this year either, right? But because Pete Carroll's a defensive head coach. So if you're getting one of Zimmer's guys, and I hope George Edwards gets a shot, you know. I'm not that guy who doesn't believe that I want to see more faces that look like mine in positions of power or influence. I definitely do. But I want, like I remember someone asked me one time about having, or I read something and I had a conversation on a show I was doing on the radio here in Atlanta about an all-black sports talk station. And I was like, I want every perspective. Like, we having a conversation, I don't want to exclude people from that conversation. I want to include everyone. So I wouldn't want there to be a such thing as an all black, where all we do is talk about things from the black perspective. Nah, not in this realm, because sports is so multifaceted. To just boil it down to that is, and it kind of falls into a little bit of a conflicted area for me, because the reason I do this and I want to continue to do this is because I do believe that the authors of so many of these stories, don't share any perspective with the characters within the story. And it comes out within their writing, within their analysis of the people. And then on the other end, you have the Stephen A. Smiths of the world, who everything that don't happen good for black folk must be racist. No, that's not true either. That's not true. Oh, and I got to address this thing about how disrespectful the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were for firing Lovie Smith over the phone. Okay, here's why you got to wait on things. And not just take things at face value because someone said it on Twitter or on some social media. That was actually Lovie Smith's choice. They called him, and I don't begrudge the dude for it, because the last time I was fired from a job and someone called me like, "Hey, are you on your way in?" I was like, "What, am I about to get fired?" Well, and then they gave me this like BS answer, and we just got to sit down and have a conversation. You know what I mean? Because I was like, yeah, if you're going to do it, like, tell me now before I get on the expressway so I can just stay at home and save my gas, because, I'm good with the decision. But tell me now. But that didn't happen. I got BS'd, and I got down there and got ambushed and fired. Okay, whatever. So, Lovie Smith, when they said, we need you to come in for a meeting, we got to talk to you about something, and he kind of smelled it out, what was going on, and he was like, nah, I won't have to have no meeting. I'm good. Stay right here. And I'm going to chill, you know what I mean? And so the firing inevitably happened over the phone, but that wasn't the intent. Now, in that realm, I think it was, Lovie Smith's problem. I think it was selfish on his part. Because a lot of times what they give you an opportunity to do as well is to reach out to your staff and tell your staff face-to-face what's going on. And these guys had to hear things through social media and things of that nature that they might not have jobs going forward. You know, I think for Lovie Smith, maybe you just eat that bullet. But going back to the point I made a while ago, that emotion, that I'm going home emotion thing, and now feeling betrayed because you took it past the realm of this being a business transaction and you injected all this personal stuff into it. Yeah, your feelings hurt now. That's why I tell people all the time, in my business, not this, but in my daily money earning business, I don't care about your problems. You know, and I'm not trying to be a jerk, but I can't make your problems my problems. If this is going to be business, let's make it business. Don't tell me about your history and, you know, how good you are for this and that. No. I won't need to do that. All we need to do is do business, and everybody will be happy. Feel me? But sometimes, you know, those lines get crossed when you're around a person a long time, or like Lovie Smith was a part of that organization for a long time, and he saw some good things happen with that organization. They went from being the laughingstock of the league when they were under golly, what's the guy's name that's the president of the Falcons? His dad, McKay. When they're under McKay, to, you know, being respectable and winning a Super Bowl inevitably, you know, under John Gruden, which brings you to another point. The fact that, yeah, they fired Tony Dungy, but the next year they won a Super Bowl. Now, you can say that, you know, John Gruden won that Super Bowl with Tony Dungy's guys, but then the question I would have to ask, playing devil's advocate, is why didn't Tony Dungy win a Super Bowl with his guys? You understand what I'm saying? Or you can say he would have won it that year. How you know? What I do know is that John Gruden did win it that year. Like, that's the fact. Everything else is just conjecture. Well, Tony Dungy probably would have won it. Maybe. Yeah, maybe he would have. But the fact of the matter is, did you realize that how things just fell? That the if you look at those soundtracks of the show soundtracks, I mean, I know you can't look at soundtracks, but the show, and when they play that game, I think it was the 2000 Super Bowl, and you hear John Lynch saying, yeah, it's everything John told us it was going to be. Like, he told them every play that the Raiders were going to run, because apparently they didn't feel the need to change up anything. So, yeah, they beat the brakes off those dudes. Now, I can tell you this, Tony Dungy wouldn't have known every play that they were running, you know, out of his playbook. Yeah. So, you know, the Glazers, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're moving in a different direction. That's all it is, man. Please don't start running around with your Black Lives Matter shirts on over a football coach being fired. Look, Lovie Smith is going to be all right. He's talented enough. He'll be all right. And maybe it's about taking a step back, which you know, would suck. But the fact of the matter is there are only 32 head coaching jobs in the NFL. So a step back to coordinator may be what it is, man. And like I said, yeah, it would suck for him, because I don't know if he's a good head coach in a bad situation, or the fact that there's something better, and the Glazers recognize it immediately. And if you're in that situation in your personal life, and you recognize there's something better that you can obtain, you know, consequence free. I mean, other than the fact that I guess they got to finish paying Lovie, but if the greater goal is worth it, I'm all for going for it, man. I'm all for taking that stab and going for it. I told you guys I wanted to talk to you about everyone's favorite idiot too, Adrian Peterson. Or do I want to do that? Or let's see what else we got, because there was some other stuff that I wanted to make sure I got. Yeah, we'll do Adrian Peterson, and then we'll get into the playoffs, because I'm not about to sit up here and break down no damn games with y'all. You know, I'm just gonna give you my thoughts quickly, and then we'll move on. But this Adrian Peterson thing is wild as hell to me. Oh, we gotta do the Hall of Fame stuff too. Speaking of Hall of Fame, Adrian Peterson, he'll be in there. I think, you know, he's one of the better running backs of his era, probably arguably the best running back of his era. But that's about it. That's about as deep as he goes. Now, you remember last year he missed the entire season, sans one game, for the child abuse charges that he ended up copping to. I think he copped to a lesser plea, of course, to stay out of jail, and he had to do some counseling and those type of things. Well, he sat down with Sports Illustrated, and he had some things to say about, how Roger Goodell didn't grasp Peterson's life experiences. Now, this falls into that real crazy area with me where I know Aiden. This is like the second or third time this has happened with he and I. Of course, not knowing him personally, but in situations where he said something, and in parts of it do ring true. But to me, it's not worth saying, especially if you're him. It's not worth saying. And two, what is the greater goal? Like, if you felt like it was worth saying, what is your greater goal in saying it? Okay. He says, he's talking about Roger Goodell here. Quote, "This is when I knew he was blind to the fact of what I was going through." My question to him would be, why the hell should he care? Like you got yourself caught up in the storm that you didn't need to be in at that time. Following the Ray Rice stuff, and now there's this child abuse situation. And here's the thing: white folks don't know that life, and you shouldn't. Like, that's when you knew. It wasn't his Harvard education and his fortunate silver spoon upbringing. All that stuff didn't give you the hint that Roger Goodell wasn't gonna know where you was coming from. He goes on in his quote to say, he asked me, "What is a whooping?" Now, in Adrian Peterson's mind, he thinks Roger Goodell is actually asking him this question because he doesn't know, not realizing that Roger Goodell is a lawyer. And one of the things I've learned about lawyers is they don't ask questions they don't already know the answer to. They ask questions to hear what Joe Black ass is gonna say. You know what I mean? So that if you say the thing that they don't want to hear, they can trip you up. He goes on to say, it was one of his first questions. It kind of showed me we were on a totally different level. It's just the way of life. For instance, here's where it gets stupid because I don't understand this. For instance, in Texas, we know what whoopings are. Down there, if it snows, people are going to go crazy. They're going to close schools. They're going to shut it down here. They're going to shut it down. Here, you're used to that. It was a tough situation. It was just a tough situation because of misperception. I get it. I get why, but you still shouldn't pass judgment on people when you don't know. Of course you should, especially in this situation. And then you're still assuming that he doesn't know. Like, yeah, nobody. Like, I'm sure his ancestors owned some blacks. I shouldn't say I'm sure. I can assume they did. And those blacks, they got whoopings. But the whole, in Texas, it don't snow, but up here it snows, so y'all are used to that. Yeah, that's kind of apples and oranges, cuz. You know what I mean? And I'm not even going to go into the litany of reasons why. If you're a cognitive thinking person, you can tell why those two examples, like you beating your kid and some white person saying, even if this is not what they're saying, but if you're assuming that what they're saying is that, I don't understand what that is. If you don't see how that's two different things, okay. I don't know what to say to you. He goes on to say, in the article, I think this is Peter King, too. He says Goodell was merely trying to establish what exactly Peterson thought was acceptable about the way he abused his son. Now, and this is where it gets into that area that I'm talking about, that kind of weird, like, kind of, but not kind of. Like, yeah, everybody know. I saw Michael B. Jordan on Dan Patrick the other day, and he was talking about something that he did as a kid, something bad as hell, over his grandmother's house. I don't know, he knocked the refrigerator over or something stupid. And they asked him why he did it. He was like, I don't know. I just did it to be a jerk. I just did it to be bad. And then they said, what did your grandma do? He said, she sent me outside to pick some switches. So, yeah, it's a thing, right? And it's not something that, like, I remember growing up. This dude, his mama called him in the house, and she beat that dude with a fan belt from a car they had in the backyard. And we could hear that dude howling and screaming in the house. And it wasn't funny until, like, he came back outside and, we out there hooping or whatnot, and he came out, his eyes was all red. He tried to like get himself together, but we knew what happened. We could hear it. And then when he told us what she whooped him with, like everybody just fell out. Even he laughed. You know, and there's a lot of people who had those stories growing up, man. You know, you saw the pictures, like when you see the pictures of Adrian Peterson's son, it kind of takes you back a bit. Especially when you hear stories about Adrian Peterson, a dude that's so damn, he's not the most self-aware person at all. I heard Colin Cowherd talking about him the other day, like the time he met him, and like he's going around purposely, and these stories have been out forever about Adrian Peterson's hand strength. When he shakes your hand, he almost damn near breaks your freaking hand. But he's doing that to like young ladies, to like little intern girls. He's like grabbing their hands and like crushing their damn fingers. That's like, come on, man. What you trying to prove? So when that is a part of your resume, and then this stuff comes out about your son, it's very hard for people to feel sorry for you or to be empathetic towards you, and especially in the climate that you were in at the time, the climate that the league was in at the time. His dad talks about it. Mr. Peterson, I guess it's Mr. Peterson, his dad. He says 15 games was something Roger Goodell was doing just to please the people. When you look at the overall picture, Adrian didn't make the rules. I felt like the NFL knew they were wrong on how they handled Adrian's situation, trying to please the women's organization and different support groups. Take a stand, show that we don't condone this or whatever. That's a quote from his dad. Now, he's right. But that doesn't dismiss the fact that you, my man, got to be more self-aware. And obviously, I know this happened before. And then the pictures came out and all this kind of stuff. But, you know, there's text messages of him talking to the boy's mom, talking about how he had to whoop him harder because he wouldn't cry. And his mom saying, you know, you don't have to do that because, you know, it's not like he's just trying to show out for you. You know, he's trying to impress you by showing you how tough he is. He's not trying to play mind games with you at all. You know, just that type of disconnect. You know what I mean? And what Adrian feels like the most important thing to him was that, dude, first of all, he got paid for the games that he missed. And then when he came back, he pressured the Vikings into a damn pay raise. You remember when everybody was talking about, you know, they going to have to let him go, and he going to end up in Dallas. That's what Dallas is banking on. Well, that didn't happen. He got more money from the Vikings and ended up in the damn playoffs right now. Like, I say this stuff about Adrian Peterson almost every year because every offseason this dude is talking about like 2,500 yards rushing and all this kind of stuff. But very rarely, until the playoffs, until the team makes the playoffs, I think this is the second time he's been there, you hear him talk about that. Like something team-oriented. For the most part, though, Adrian Peterson's a man about himself. You know, and for what it's worth, yeah, okay, whatever. Be the best you can be. Be great. You want to be the greatest running back, be the greatest running back, no doubt, right? But I think Adrian Peterson, he comes off to me as a guy who puts up this great, ridiculous facade. You know, he says something that there are very few parents or dads better than him. He got like 7 kids by a multitude of women, and he talks about parenting his kids through Skype and FaceTime. Yeah, just by that alone, cuz tells me that there are plenty of better dads than you, my man, that are present, you know, and that they're with the mother of their children, and they raise their children. You know the story about the guy who killed his son, the son he had with another woman that he initially denied, and his dad was like, "No, that's my grandson." But no one knew about it until the boy got killed by his mom's. He got beat to death by his mom's boyfriend, who, by the way, is now in jail, in case you were wondering, for that. He got convicted of it and he got put in jail. But, you know, Adrian Peterson, what did he do? Yeah, kept playing. He sent the money for the funeral and kept playing ball. Yeah, that's a bad guy move, if you ask me. It just is. You know what I mean? And you know, to each his own, but certain things, like if you're a human being, that's got to at least like surprise you a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, he did what? Like, he didn't like miss the game to go to his baby son's funeral? Nope, did not. Did not. After saying, like, I don't even know if he's mine. When apparently your dad was pretty sure about it. And then inevitably you became sure about it. It's like, that's why I'm always talking about, just let people be who they are. Adrian Peterson's a phenomenal running back. Don't expect him to be more than that. Don't expect him to be some saint, some good guy. Why? Because he holler out Jesus and God every time you turn around? Negative. That don't mean nothing, you know. So did Charles Manson, didn't he? The dude, Ted, whatever his name is, that killed all those people, that they drank the Kool-Aid and, you know, killed all those people in South America. Yeah, he did too. That don't mean nothing to nobody. Shouldn't mean nothing to nobody. But I digress because apparently it does. You know what? Before I go to break, let me go through these. Man, do I not have it? Yeah, I think I messed up and saved something wrong here and didn't get the Hall of Fame stuff. But it doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter at all. Oh yeah, I do. Here it is. Quickly, I'm gonna read off like the names that mean something to me, because there's a lot of names that are people that are finalists for the NFL Hall of Fame. And when I come back, I'll talk about that. I'll also talk a little bit about the playoffs this weekend and a story that relates to a show that I watched called American Crime. I told you guys about this kid that got sodomized by a basketball team in Tennessee to the point where it like ruptured his colon or something like that. Something real awful, man. But there is an update to that story, and I'll give it to you guys before I get out of here tonight for the weekend. But yeah, you got Terrell Owens is one of the guys on the list. Steve Atwater's on the list. Marvin Harrison's on the list. Brett Favre is on the list. I can't even find a damn list. What am I, an idiot? Yeah, I mean, well, that goes without saying, but it's weird that I know I saved it, but for whatever reason, it's just not here. And yeah, that's what I did. I saved it wrong. I saved this Adrian Peterson foolery under the title that I meant to save the other thing under. So while we're at break, I'll look for the actual Hall of Fame finals list. We'll come back. I'll read off the name, but I want to talk about what I really want to talk about. Like, damn the list itself. I want to talk about Marvin Harrison and Terrell Owens, and the perception versus reality when it comes to these two guys. Yeah, it's amazing. It is in one word, is damn amazing. We'll do that next right here on One Mic with Big Mike.
Hi, I'm Layla Ali. I might be undefeated in professional boxing, but there's one problem even I can't fight alone: childhood hunger. Over 17 million kids in America may not know where their next meal is coming from. That's 1 in 5 children. Yet billions of pounds of surplus food produced right here in America just get thrown out every year. That's more than enough to feed every last hungry child. That's why the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks gathers surplus food and gets it to hungry kids before it goes to waste. But they can't do it without your help. Join me in supporting Feeding America and your local food bank by going to feedingamerica.org. Together we can knock out hunger. Together, we're Feeding America.
To help solve hunger in your community and to find your local food bank, visit feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
There's one thing you can never have sex without.
It's not something you buy.
Or something you take.
In fact, there's only one way to get it.
It has to be given to you, freely.
It's consent.
Because sex without it isn't sex.
It's rape. Consent.
If you don't get it, you don't get it. It's on us to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
All right, 90 minutes down, exactly 90 to go right here on One Mic with Big Mike. Don't forget I'm being heard on Spreaker.com every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 o'clock. So make sure you guys spread the word, tell a friend to tell a friend. I appreciate it. Also, make sure you guys follow me. Sign up for your free Spreaker account and follow me on Spreaker, as well as on Twitter and Instagram at @1 MICWITHBIGMIKE. And like my Facebook page, ONEMICWITHBIGMIKE. Don't forget, give me your guesses for the winner of Super Bowl 50, which, by the way, Beyonce, speaking of, the song is a Beyonce song, she'll be performing along with Coldplay at this year's Super Bowl, so big up to her. This is her second round at that joint. So now there'll be some songs that I know the words to. Single ladies, that's probably going to be in there. I love that, boy. What was I saying? I'm such an idiot. Oh, as well, don't forget, just guess the name or guess the team that's going to win Super Bowl 50. Send it to me via Instagram or Twitter or Facebook. You can do it. No, don't do it. Don't do it via the chat room here for the show, because I don't know how to retrieve that stuff. But you do that if after the Super Bowl's over with, multiple people have guessed the same team. What I'll do, I'll just put all the names in the hat. I'll maybe just have my wife have her draw the name, and then I'll ship the hat out. I'll get your information and ship the hat out to you, let you pick which one you want, and I'll go about it that way. And we'll give a couple more away as the year goes on. And hopefully have some more giveaways as well. Maybe try to get my hands on some movie passes and things of that nature, to kind of liven up the show and show my appreciation for what you guys do as far as listening to the show. Now, I told you guys I was going to let you guys know about a couple of these NFL Hall of Fame finalists, some of the people that are going to be up for election or admittance, I guess, into the NFL Hall of Fame. Kicker Morton Anderson. People in Atlanta want to claim this dude, you know what I mean? But in reality, he played 12 years with the Saints and 5 here with the Falcons. Actually, he played 5 with the Falcons and came back for another year, I think. So, 6 with the Falcons. That happens around here a lot. Chris Doman, all of a sudden, a Falcon going into the Hall of Fame. Miss me. Guys like Don Coryell, he's like one of the innovators of the passing game in the NFL. So people say. Steve Atwater, Terrell Davis. That's a very, very one. You know what I mean? Tony Dungy, Alan Faneca, Brett Favre, of course, first balloter. Kevin Green, linebacker he played with Carolina and the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I know him more he actually played for the 49ers as well. See, during the last few years of these guys' careers, they end up kind of squeeze out a few more years with other teams. Marvin Harrison, one team, Colts. I'm going to talk about him here in just a second. Joe Jacoby, Edgerrin James, the edge, played for 2 teams. Oh, he played for the Seahawks too. See, again, didn't realize he went to the Seahawks. John Lynch, 2 teams, Denver and Tampa Bay. Terrell Owens, really 6 teams. They don't put Baltimore in here because he never took the field for Baltimore, but he actually did get traded to Baltimore from the San Francisco 49ers when his agent or his people in charge didn't file the proper paperwork to allow him to opt out of his deal and become a free agent. So they still had his rights and decided they were going to just trade him. Orlando Pace. Orlando Pace played for the Bears, huh? Kurt Warner, his track, from the supermarket to the Arena League to the Rams to the Giants, and then resurrected with the Arizona Cardinals and find himself in another Super Bowl, which they lost at the end to the Pittsburgh Steelers. So those are the 15 names of guys that are going to be up for election into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. But the 2 I want to really focus on, and maybe another here, are Marvin Harrison and Terrell Owens. And it stems from that perception of who we think guys are because of what we see them do in public. If you watch football long enough, you've seen Marvin Harrison play ball. You see him be a guy who, don't say a lot, doesn't do a lot. When he catches the football, he scores a touchdown. It is what it is. I've heard Marvin Harrison out of his own mouth say that, he would prefer to play the game with nobody in the stands. Just him and his teammates, and then just go home. That much of an apparent inverted personality. Now, on the other end of that spectrum, you got the huge, vivacious, flamboyant, boisterous personality of Terrell Owens, right? And Terrell Owens, this is his first year on the ballot. This is Marvin Harrison's, I think, second year on the ballot. And Tony Dungy made a comment this morning saying that he would be disappointed if Terrell Owens got in first ballot and Marvin Harrison didn't. And it's basically based on the perception of what people think about Terrell Owens. I call it the criminalization of a guy. Because he's a guy who he hadn't been in any trouble legally. You know what I mean? I look at him as a guy who just had a big mouth. And my philosophy is that in America, white America doesn't bother them if you're better than them. Oh, damn. Here's a damn list right here. I had to go pull up another one, but I'm so idiotic. I didn't label it correctly. But don't tell them about it. Be Marvin Harrison. Right? Until I get into Marvin Harrison here in just a second. Terrell Owens. There's actually a list online. And some kind of way I just knew I knew there was going to be a list online of his transgressions, right? Or perceived transgressions. In 2000. Guys remember this? In Dallas Stadium, he ran out to the middle of the field and threw his arms up in celebration after scoring a touchdown. And it sparked off a couple of incidents. George T got put out the game. Emmitt Smith tried to retaliate and do the same thing, taking his helmet off. Yeah, back in the day, boys and girls, they could take their helmets off on the football field after scoring and things of that nature. He ended up saying that was a homage to his grandma because, you know, that hole in the center of the old Dallas Cowboys stadium was said to be because God was smiling down on the Cowboys. So T.O. went out there and he said it was an homage to his grandma who just recently passed or whatnot. Other things, he pulled a Sharpie out on Monday Night Football after beating Sean Springs? I think it was Sean Springs he beat for a touchdown, pulled a Sharpie out of his sock and signed the ball and gave it to his financial advisor. Again, nothing criminal about that. And even Sean Springs after the game said, you know what? I didn't even know he did it till y'all just told me. It's my job to stop him from scoring. Once he scores, he can do what he want to do. In another incident, he grabbed some pom-poms from a cheerleader after scoring a touchdown and celebrated using the pom-poms the way the cheerleaders were. Everybody seemed to be having fun with it, but they have it on a list of incidents. I told you guys already about him being traded to Baltimore and him refusing to play for the team because he felt as though, you know, he had the paperwork was in. His people told him the paperwork was in for him to become a free agent in some kind of way. The 49ers are saying they didn't get it. When all that year, it was said, you know, he did his goodbyes at the final game of the season. All that kind of stuff happened. Everyone knew T.O. was going to be a free agent at the end of the year. All of a sudden, the paperwork don't come through. All right. There was a time when he intimated that Jeff Garcia, former quarterback Jeff Garcia, was gay. He then recanted on it. It was the old, you know, my grandma told me if it quacked like a duck and walked like a duck, it must be a duck. I'm paraphrasing. He said something of that nature. Then when he went back to Baltimore as an Eagle, scored a touchdown and did Ray Lewis's dance. Oh, can't do that. And it goes on and on and on. And my point in doing all this stuff and saying all this stuff and reminding you guys about this stuff is that nothing illegal. There's no T.O. got arrested for this, or T.O. was drunk driving, or T.O. put his hands on a woman. You know, T.O., nothing. None of that stuff happened. But he's been put into that category of being a problem or people not liking him. So people feel like he won't be a first ballot Hall of Famer because of that. What did he do on the football field? Who played harder than him? You know, when he went out there and played on that broken leg and his quarterback was throwing up in the huddle in the biggest game of both of their lives. And then subsequently, he came back and asked for more money. He found out the Philadelphia. See, this is the part that they don't tell you. They tell you that T.O. was being greedy because he wanted more money from the Eagles after playing that Super Bowl on a broken leg, right? He wanted to redo his deal, and they wouldn't do it. And that's when you see him in the driveway doing sit-ups and not going to practice and things of that nature, right? But what they don't tell you is that the same thing that people were calling him greedy for doing, the Eagles did the same thing to their local to I think Comcast, CSN. Philadelphia, after they made it to the Super Bowl, they went to their TV provider, tore up the deal, and signed a bigger deal because they felt like they had maxed out the previous one. Same thing he was saying. Funny how that works, huh? They got their new deal. He didn't. Once again, funny how that works. Now, on to Marvin Harrison. You wonder how Marvin... See, Tony Dungy paints it as Marvin Harrison had to wait until Chris Carter and Andre Reed and all these other wide receivers. There was this backlog and this traffic jam at wide receiver, and that's why he had to wait. He didn't mention the part where Marvin Harrison was a suspect in a shooting at one point, an altercation with a guy in Philly. Now, if you talk to people from Philly, they'll tell you about Marvin Harrison. You know, how, like, Marvin Harrison ain't that dude you want to mess with. Subsequently, later on, the young man who he had the altercation with, and well, this is how the story went. Marvin Harrison said that he owned the gun that shot the guy, but he's not the guy who shot the guy. I don't know. Well, who shot him, Marvin? I don't know. And that was it. That was pretty much it. Then a little bit later on, somebody rolled up on the dude, shot up his car. He went into a coma and died a couple months later. The same guy, right? Marvin Harrison, I'm not even sure if he was questioned. I don't even think he was questioned at all in the matter. When people, you know how neighborhood talk goes. People knew about the beef between Marvin Harrison and this other kid, big old kid too, like 300-pound kid. He's a drug dealer, local neighborhood hood, I guess if I can say it that way. Yeah, and like I said, people from Philly that I've known talk about how Marvin Harrison owns the city, man, owns a portion of that city. That particular neighborhood. He got car washes and clubs. By the way, the kid was shot up outside of Marvin Harrison's club, just ironically, I guess. But, he's staunch in saying that they never questioned him about it. He was never looked upon as a person of interest or a suspect or whatnot. So he feels as though that clears everything up. Well, sometime after that, apparently Marvin Harrison was being a good Samaritan, and some guy rode up on his car after being robbed, and his car got shot up. People were shooting at him in the street, but it had nothing to do with him. The guy just came up and, just randomly chose Marvin Harrison's car to say, hey, man, I need to get up out of here. These people are trying to rob me. Yeah, because that happens. Yeah, that happens. So my point is this, right? The same point I'm always making. Let people be who they are to you, right? Understand that you don't know. Like Marvin Harrison, from all that's been, a lot that's been said, not all, but a lot that's been said, he's somebody different to Tony Dungy and Peyton Manning and the fans of the Indianapolis Colts than he is to the people in his own neighborhood. The mom of the guy who died, she tells a story of seeing him, of taking a friend home from work, and she had to go through that particular neighborhood to take that friend home. And lo and behold, she saw Marvin Harrison standing on the corner, and he looks at her and he just starts smiling, and she's getting pissed off because this dude is just smiling at her, and she figures she knows why he's smiling because he got away with murdering her son or having her son murdered, whichever. And she said as the light turned green or whatever, she was pulling off, and she knew he was smiling at her because he kept his eyes on her and smiling as she rolled by. And she was basically saying it took everything in her not to run him down with the car, and hit him on the corner. So my point is the same point I'm always making, that very few people are one thing to everybody. You know what I mean? If for nothing else, you look at T.O. and you say, genuine dude. Maybe a dude that was over emotional about things at times, didn't handle things the right way, but not a dude that you had to worry about going to jail for murder or attempted murder or shooting somebody. Nothing like that. Tell me who has heard Marvin Harrison's voice. Now, he's going to have to talk here pretty soon, and possibly someone with the gumption will question him on these things. Whatever happened with this, homeboy? Where were we at with that? Because many people don't know about it. It came and it went, and because it's Marvin Harrison, you can't believe someone like that would do something like that, because he's a character on a Sunday morning, on a Sunday afternoon, a Sunday night, or Monday night television show called Football. You feel like you know him. Like another Philadelphia native, Cliff Huxtable, or by the way, Bill Cosby. Let me say it that way. Because Cliff Huxtable was the character that everyone holds on to. Bill Cosby's the rapist. And there's a difference. And it's all right. It's all right for it to be different. It's not all right for you to act like it's the same thing, like that dude. Speaking of knowing dudes, that's my guy Sam Mitchell, looking dapper as usual on my television as I'm talking to you guys and watching the Cavs take on the Minnesota Timberwolves. Didn't even realize they still got Sam. Flip Saunders unfortunately passed away. succumbed. I guess succumbed to cancer is the word you use. And Sam Mitchell's been coaching the team all year, but he's still under that interim tag. They hadn't given him the job yet, or haven't awarded him the job yet. I want to get away from saying that as much too. They gave him the deal, they gave him the job, awarded him, hired him. Those things probably fit better. I'm sure none of you out there consider your paycheck being given to you like it's some sort of damn charity. I'm sure you like us to believe, or like me to believe, that you've earned the damn thing. A couple days ago, well, let's go back to Wednesday night. One of my favorite shows premiered. It's only in the second season. American Crime premiered, and they jumped right into that damn thing too. They ain't even wait. Regina King's in that joint. If you want to know some of the people in there, Felicity Huffman is her name, I think. I don't know. I'm trying to remember the name I heard. Like you know these actors and actresses, some of them that are in this show, but I don't know their names. You've seen them before in a lot of stuff. Also, the boy Dre 3000, he's in that joint. He's playing a dad. He's playing Regina King's husband in this joint. Man, their son is like this. He's like a star basketball player at this private school. They send him to this private school, to try to get him out of the trappings of the hood and all this kind of stuff. I think it takes place in either Columbus, Ohio, or somewhere in Ohio. It takes place. In the storyline revolves around a kid that I'm not sure if the kid is gay or not. I mean, he has a girlfriend, but like in the preview for the next episode, his mom is asking him if he went to this party to have sex with this boy. So I don't know. More will be revealed, obviously, as the season goes on. But there's this basketball team that's like the pride of the community. The coach is one of these emperors of the kingdom type coaches, and they won state championships and district championships and all this kind of stuff. Well, then they have this party that they call the captain's party, and this kid who's this pretty much this outcast, he gets invited to this party surprisingly. So he and his girlfriend go to this party. They get to the party, and apparently, they're drinking, and the kid can't remember anything that happened. So the story goes forward. They don't show all this stuff, by the way. This is like I'm going kind of back to front. But anyway, one day he's in the gym after school, I guess, while they're having basketball practice, and the cheerleaders are practicing cheerleading practice or whatever, or having cheerleading practice. And he's scrolling through, I don't know, Facebook or something, Instagram or something. But anyway, he sees pictures of himself, like wearing panties and all out of it, and he doesn't remember any of this stuff happening. So now it's like old junk. Well, then the school gets a hold of the pictures. They end up suspending him, calling his mom, telling his mom about these pictures, but they're telling his mom that they can't show her the pictures. He has to show her the pictures. She ends up going to the girlfriend, getting the pictures from the girlfriend. Ends up talking to the son about it. He's like, I don't remember anything that happened. I only had a beer. Something must have been in my beer. So she's like, oh, John, somebody drugged my son and did something to him. So his mom is trying to get the school to get to the bottom of it. They're telling her that his accusations are not substantiated. She then, at the end of the show, calls the police and says, "I like to report a rape." And then that's how the show starts, with just the audio of her calling the police. But then at the end, they actually show her being so frustrated with the school's response, because they got a lot to protect. They're having these fundraisers where she's talking about they need to raise like $50 million and all this kind of stuff. It's so complex. I do advise you guys take a look at it. Now, I mentioned that to mention that on, I think, Monday, I talked about a story out of Tennessee where a kid, same deal, at a party, they got him drunk, male kids, and apparently the victim in the story, he was sodomized with a pool cue, as well as other things that were done to him. This actually, caused some bodily harm and injury. They ruptured his colon with a pool cue. And like how we get to that? Like, they want to call it hazing, a hazing incident. And I think that's part of what was happening on the show as well. The fictitious version of this. And I don't think that the two things are related. I just think it's it's a weird coincidence that this story is coming out now, because obviously this show was filmed a while ago. It had to be filmed a while ago for them to be playing it now. But it's like I don't understand like how that's a thing. Like that's the way you initiate somebody by ramming a pool. Like I don't know, man. These damn kids. Sometimes I just think about these damn kids, and I be like, man, I hate these damn kids. They got no rhyme or reason for doing half the crap they do, and they're so reckless with the way they treat each other. And a lot of times, it's so many times it's the weakest of the bunch that they do these things to, man. You know, we wasn't like that, man. Like I was a jock, you know, I messed with people. But it was always people who could defend themselves, man. Like the people who couldn't, we looked after those people. Like if you was one of the learning impaired, I guess is what you call them, special kids. We had a couple of them, man. We, as a football players, we looked out for them, man, to make sure nobody did that foolishness. Things just changed, man. Like people feel like, you know, they should feel like giants standing on the back of the weak. And maybe that's a microcosm for the country itself, now that I think about it. But anyway, the school in Tennessee, the real life story. Ualtua High School in Tennessee. They've actually canceled the remainder of their 2016 basketball season after 3 players were charged with sexually assaulting a teammate. According to the Associated Press report published on Thursday, 3 members of the team committed an alleged rape against another teammate that resulted in the victim needing surgery. The young men, who are minors, were charged with aggravated rape and aggravated assault. And apparently, when the announcement was made that the season would be canceled, some kind of way they discovered that 3 other kids may have been involved in it as well. Oh, there he is. I'm going to tell you his name right now because some kind of way the computer, so smart, knows what I was looking for. And it brought up a picture of the guy who actually wrote 12 Years a Slave and the show that I'm talking about in conjunction with this story out of Tennessee. I'll get back to that later because I want to make sure I get out everything that I had to say tonight. Just the more I think about that, it bugs me and kind of just throws me for a loop still here. For my Atlanta Falcons fans, you'll be happy to know, or not, that Arthur Blank seems to be, I don't know, Thomas Dimitroff might have pictures of the boss, man, because his job is safe once again, man. A guy who, you know, that 2012 draft that we know of, that has been marked with the Julio Jones trade and pick. Those players, the rest of those players aren't even in the league anymore, much less on the team that drafted them. And Thomas Dimitroff, for those of you who aren't here in Atlanta, the GM for the Atlanta Falcons, his track record at drafting impact players, I think starts and ends with Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. And now, I guess Devontae Freeman, you throw him in the mix now because he's shown himself to be a viable NFL running back. He'll be making his first Pro Bowl appearance this year. So, you know, but that's 3 out of, we're talking since 2012. This is the 5th year. And then Matt Ryan got drafted in 2008? So since Matt Ryan, you know, he hadn't been able to. Oh, Randall Cunningham. I didn't read Randall Cunningham's name, but he's going to be one of the Hall of Fame finalists as well, too. My man John Chuckery says that a lot as well. Shout out to Khalil Mack. Oh, I remember so many people thought they were so smart. You got to pick Jadeveon Clowney. Yeah, the show I produced, none of us believed that. You know what I mean? Khalil Mack, for what you wanted, especially if you're the Texans, what you wanted someone who was versatile, right? You wanted someone who could put their hand on the ground, someone who could rush the edge with their hand from 3-point stands and from a 2-point stance, playing a linebacker position, and also give you some strength in the coverage area as a linebacker, right? Yeah. You're going to try to do that square peg round hole thing with Jadeveon Clowney when Khalil Mack was built to do that, which, by the way, brings me to this point. First player in NFL history to be an all-pro at 2 separate positions in the same damn year. Khalil Mack. Yes. He is an all-pro at defensive end and linebacker. You know, people like, but you can't miss on, like, if you miss, you can miss on Jadeveon Clowney. You can't miss with Khalil Mack, meaning that people will understand later on if Jadeveon Clowney, who, by the way, is questionable again for this week's playoff game. He can't get on the field, man. You know what I mean? That's the first and foremost thing you need to do. Get on the damn football field. He can't do that. Khalil Mack, now, two guys who should be linked together based on that. He won't be in the playoffs. No fault of his own. Obviously, you see him making the Pro Bowl and being an All-Pro. I think that's more important to me than making a Pro Bowl, because guys make the Pro Bowl as like the fourth. You know, Vince Young made a Pro Bowl as like the fourth alternate when almost every damn quarterback that was worth a damn was like, I don't want to do that. Yeah, send somebody else. And they sent Vince. And you used to say, well, Vince Young made the Pro Bowl as a rookie. Kind of, but not really. You know, I mean, technically, yeah, he did. But when you look a little bit deeper, as I'm always saying, you got to look a little bit deeper, right? Yeah, I think that's going to be it. Yeah, I think I did that. I think I got through everything I need to get through tonight. Still got about 3 minutes to spare, and I'm not going to push it at all. We're going to hit this music. Tell you guys once again, thank you for joining me this week. I'll be back on Monday. All shows from this week and for every previous week will be available on my Spreaker page. So you go there, Spreaker.com, Spreaker, like speaker with an R between the P and the E, and the app for your mobile devices, either Windows, Android, or Apple. Any mobile device you may have, even if it's a tablet, run that. Also, make sure you follow me on Spreaker as well. The number 1, MICWITHBIGMIKE. I'm trying to get my followship up. As well as on Twitter and Instagram at the same handle, and on Facebook, Facebook.com/ONEMICWITHBIGMIKE. Do that so that you can be in the mix to win one of these brand new. I'm going to post pictures of them over the weekend. Maybe tonight. I got to go work out here in a second. But I'm going to post pictures of them. You guys make sure you get your prediction in. Predict who's going to win this year's Super Bowl. And I'll bless you with a brand new era or a Mitchell & Ness snapback hat of your choice. I'll show you what I got. They're not used. They're brand spanking new for you to enjoy, for me to show my appreciation to you guys. So with that being said, enjoy your weekends. Be safe out there. I got a lot of stuff I need to get out the way this weekend as well. And I'll see you guys back here, same place, same time, on Monday at 7. Catch me on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook over the weekend. Have a good one.